Visions of ideal Victorian masculinity are displayed in the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. However, due to Freud's structure of the human psyche, the difference between the higher and lower classes is only slight. Freud's structure of the psyche is split into three parts: the superego, our conscience; id, the part that controls our desires, our primal part; and the ego, which balances out the two. There are four characters that make up these parts, and the first is Jekyll's butler, Poole. As a servant, Poole has to quash his desires, be socially apt, and dress well, but soberly. This is true also for Mr. Utterson, who, although he is of a higher status than Poole, is similar in these regards. Utterson is a restrained character and presents himself as a decent person with strong morals and appears to be self-disciplined in behaviour. Similar to Poole, he dresses soberly, which shows his subdued personality, as does his small amount of expression. He is, as Dan Hay claims in Dr. Jekyll's Two Bodies, the epitome of the respectable, self-controlled gentleman, and the antithesis to Mr. Hyde and his self-indulgence. Hyde represents the indulgent working-class id that Jekyll keeps hidden. He is demoted from Jekyll's doctor to Mr., and this social degrading paints him, as Dan Hay states, a hedonistic degenerate who lacks self-discipline and restraint. He is considered working class because of his indulgence into desires. However, these indulgences tend to lean towards wines and good pictures, which contrasts with his working class label. Hyde's violent tendencies that appear with his temper create a labile identity. The main topic of Dana Hayes is that Hyde is referred to as clothing, as if Mr. Hyde were a pair of pyjamas that he could wear sleeping in one location, implying that Jekyll wears the suit of Hyde to experience and indulge desires considered acceptable in the working class. Hyde is the id personified through his outer appearance. His peers seem to dislike Hyde as they can possibly see their own version of Hyde within themselves. Hyde is the result of a caged id that has been restrained through Jekyll's lack of liberty. Jekyll, in contrast to Hyde, is a respectable gentleman and tries to maintain self-discipline. However, Jekyll willingly takes the potion and dons the costume of Hyde, or rather, Hyde removes the costume of Jekyll and bears his naked personality. As Dana Hay insinuates, just as a naked body is unacceptable in society, it appears this is also true for the naked personality. So, is the gap between the social classes of the gentleman, the higher classman, and the masculine, the working classman, really that wide? In McCracken Flesher's Birking the Scottish Body, Burke and Hare are named entrepreneurs. This is a bit too grand of a name for murderers, as it gives the crooks an elite classification. Knox, however, climbed the ranks of meritocracy, and due to his want of bodies to dissect, he was the reason for Burke and Hare to start murdering. This is the beginning of his fall from grace. Even though the bodies supplied were fresh and murdered, he, as a doctor, would have been able to tell, but he still accepted the murders. However, when brought to court, he feigned innocence to the victims' untimely deaths. After this scandal, any associations with elite classes went sour. So, the doctor, although an elite or higher class gentleman, he still possessed an id, just the same as working class men. Harking back to Jekyll and Hyde, regarding clothing, the clothing that Hyde wears is of a rich fabric. Throughout Dana Hay's Two Bodies essay, the word wear is used quite frequently when regarding clothes and the essence of a gentleman. So do the clothes make a gentleman, or is it the movements? Such as the two bodies, the dog aspiring to be a high-mannered gentleman, creates an animalistic idea. And with regards to humans, animals are considered lowly, which could refer to the human's stature and status. So are the working class really this way? And if a dog aspires to be a high-mannered gentleman, as a dog is considered lowly, is also a high-mannered gentleman? Hyde is spoken of as a gentleman by peers, although they don't perceive him to be so. His muscular body, calloused hands show a disciplined body, and this is what most men of working class background want. Therefore, Hyde can claim a higher status in some circles. Also, regarding Hyde's disciplined body, does this mean that although he doesn't restrain from desires, he still has a gentlemanly discipline of some sort? In Jekyll's two bodies, it is claimed that a gentleman is a space, an absence, yet Hyde contradicts this working-class tag as he and his image slip from people's minds. No one remembers what he looks like, therefore showing his gentlemanly side of being an absence. In short, I personally believe that there is not much of a difference between the elite gentleman and the working-class masculine man, and as both are human beings, they both have good and evil within, and they both restrain themselves to a certain extent.